Hi everyone, this is Singh Jaini here from the Digital Fifth. We have one more session now today. I mean, we keep doing now more and more sessions and we are learning from the ecosystem a lot. A lot of people ask us saying that why do we do that? I think we get a chance to learn from the ecosystem, and some of the speakers we get to meet are the speakers we never would have got a chance to meet as well. I think I can tell you that here, I think some of the speakers here I've never met earlier, and it's got me a chance to meet them and learn from them. The area itself, which is one platform, multiple products, is a critical one. The way we market understands, and I'm right now we'll take it a flavor more on the lending side because that's where the fire is on. I think every now and then we come back with a new terminology. Now it's a BNPL. Now you'll get something else. But if you look at the product variations, the complications which exist today, the way when the BNPL blend into EMI loan, you don't know how the commercials are structured, how, let's say, subventions are done, the back end, front end, how do they align for it? Let's say, for example, you have a use case where your platform, you are working with a fintech is working with, let's say, merchants, and each merchant has different data points, and that data points you are supposed to underwrite, offer them newer products. I think it's complicated, right? And we need to figure out that we have platform which can handle the complexities, the variations, each one of them. That's extremely critical for us to grow. So I think that's criticality which we exist today. Otherwise, you'll end up with hundreds of platforms, and somehow you will lose the flavor. Of course, you can look at unification of CRM, but still somewhere maybe the journeys have to be commonly built. Otherwise, the cost of doing business can also be disproportionately high, making your business itself unviable, right? Which you obviously don't want to do that. You want a viable business where scale can happen as well, right? I think I've got entire leadership joining us here. I think Mahesh is also there. Hi, Mahesh. So we are just starting, Mahesh. Yeah, we just work.
Okay.
Okay. So a quick view on us, the Digital Fifth. We are India's largest fintech firm. Interestingly, maybe largest and maybe the only one. So it is difficult to say which one is right, which other is wrong. But we are going to celebrate our 5th anniversary on 17th of next month. We have been sort of in the market and working with the ecosystem a lot. And in terms of the network, I think we would have maybe amongst the largest network worldwide on fintech, of course, focused in India, but a lot of people outside India also tap our ecosystem as well in different ways. We are for business consulting, partnership, training, and hiring. This is not the agenda and forum for it, so we are not going to get into it. We'll jump it, but if anybody is looking at fintech consulting, we are the sort of focused areas for that. There's a set of customers which we work with, which is fintechs. We have NBFCs, we have banks, we have networks, we have bureaus, wealth companies, a lot of such entities. This will, I mean, we have here Arun from Dvara. Maybe I'll give it the opportunity to Arun himself to actually quickly talk about his company, and then we'll quickly move into the session. So we'll maybe a 1 minute quick rundown on Dvara solutions, and then we can start.
Thanks so much, Samir, and good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this session and to listen to our esteemed speakers today. So it's such a pleasure. So I'll not take too much of time, 30 seconds about us. So Dvara Solutions is a part of the Dvara group. Dvara Solutions is a technology provider for financial institutions, where we try to automate all the business processes of financial institutions through various modules. Since our inception, we've onboarded more than 25 clients across 7 different asset classes. So in that sense, we work across multiple asset classes, across multiple segments, and clients of multiple scales as well. And today, we cater to a large number of these financial institutions which are trying to digitize and see how they can get on the digital journey. And that's where the topic is also well placed today. Yeah.
And I think topic itself we just spoke about, but I think who am I to talk about this subject? I think we'll talk about this subject with the speakers here, the luminaries from the ecosystem. They have been stalwarts, and the best part is we have stalwarts from across system. We have from a banking, NBFC, MFI, and of course the platform guys as well. We'll focus on how do we build a near zero operations platform. How do we ensure that while we have multiple products, we still need to have a single view of the customer. How do we prioritize? How do we create different flavors? And how does it end up with top line or bottom line benefit as well? नहीं तो ज्ञान बहुत हो जाता है, सब launch हो जाता है, फिर कुछ होता नहीं है, right? One transaction we are saying we are live, and we keep hearing that all the time. So I think with this, maybe it will be good to have a quick introduction from each of the speakers here. Maybe Ajay, you can start, and then we can go in the same way. Ajay, Mahesh, Shiva, and Arun. I want to understand from you, I mean, a quick background if you could give yourself and your experience, and also talk a bit about what's happening in the digital lending experience area in your view, and a quick guidance on the subject, which is digital lending itself and how it's going to play out.
All right. Thank you so much, Samir, for getting us all together on a single panel. It's a very exciting discussion, which I'm looking forward to. To give a quick introduction about myself, I've been working into financial services for the last 18 years and been into lending and also multiple other payment services as well. So that's been my background. I'm currently working with Shriram Capital, which is the investments and holding arm for the Shriram Group. The primary 4 organizations that we cater right now are to Shriram Transport Finance, Shriram City Union, Shriram Life Insurance, and Shriram General. 2 of these companies are public, and we are a 75,000 odd employees strong organization. Our book size is around 1,50,000 odd crores. That size in itself brings in a lot of challenges as we bring about change, and that's why this topic is quite exciting to me. In terms of what we converse about over the next hour or so, right? So that's what I look forward to. And from a platform perspective, personally, I've worked on multiple platforms on both sides of the wicket, right? I would say a single platform and also a multi-platform approach as well. So there are benefits and also a lot of challenges which come along, and I'm hoping to have a discussion about it.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Ajay. And Mahesh has been a friend for a long time. I think we go long back, multiple organizations, and he's the guy who I think is the most knowledgeable and deep rooted in the activity. Right? I mean, he has been helping the ecosystem a lot in different roles in different organizations. So I think, Mahesh, your guidance will be useful. You have played more roles than I would have played. I mean, maybe I'll play the rest of my life, right? Everybody talks about your 5 a.m. issues, right? You wake up at 5 a.m. and start working. So it'd be good to have your views as well.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Samir, for that grand introduction. So I think the way I would probably put it out is different, Samir. I think, I currently am the CIO for Yes Bank, and driving the entire digitization journey that we really focused on in terms of bringing to the market. Yes has been on a great journey. We took some step back, but right now over the next with a re-architected strategy and a go-to-market that essentially is pivoted around digital, and more importantly around the lending space. I think there's a huge amount of work that we are now embarked upon. I think, thank you for inviting me and having me on this panel. Clearly a great topic for us, and I'm sure that we can learn from each other's experiences and thoughts. And the marketplace in general is now abuzz with a lot of capabilities that are being brought to the table, not just with the banks, but a lot of the fintechs who are creating disruptions. So the collaboration and inclusive competition, I would call it, makes huge sense for us for a discussion. So look forward for it, and thank you for having me on the call.
Thank you. And I think MFI business is different, right? What language is spoken about in the banking world, saying aisa ho jayega, UPI ho jayega, this kar denge. And suddenly you realize that when we talk about AEPS to the guys in banks as well, they would not know that what is AEPS, how does it work, how the ecosystem on the ground is operating. I think therefore digitization from a Samasta perspective and MFI perspective would be different. So it would be good to get your perspective as well, Shiva. So maybe a quick introduction, and then maybe you can talk about digital lending from your perspective, which is more deeper and more Bharat oriented.
Yeah. Thank you, Samir. Thanks for having me on the panel. Hello, everyone. See, I'm one of the founders of Samasta Finance, IIFL Samasta Finance Limited. We are in the financial inclusion space, and our portfolio is primarily in the microfinance sector. We have presence in 17 states with a portfolio of nearly 6,000 crores. We are the 8th largest MFI in India. Even though most of our portfolio is in microfinance, we have been growing the retail portfolio also in the last 3 years. Over 90% of our customers have an annual income of less than 2 lakhs, and most of them operate in the informal sector, which means that whatever assumptions you have about your customer in other sectors do not apply here. For instance, many of our customers do not even have a mobile phone. It's slowly changing, but as of now, most of our customers do not have a smartphone. Then you have the issue of the bank accounts. Okay, most of our customers have bank account, but they do not do any banking transactions. Since they are in the informal sector, they earn in cash, and they also make loan repayments in cash. Okay, that brings with it one sets of the challenges for collection. And then thirdly, this is an internal issue, which is a staffing issue. Our attrition is high at the frontline staff level. So which would mean that you need to have your mobile app easy to use and intuitive. And it also means that a lot of training needs to be done to a staff all the time. Okay, so this is the context that we operate in. Okay, so any digitization initiative that we drive should take these constraints into account and drive a strategy around these constraints. So I look forward to more discussion on this topic.
No, thank you. I think a lot more people will not talk about this open issue of attrition, but it's a critical one to handle, right? Because we need to create software which does not need training, right? Intense training. In the first say you have to start from ground zero. So I think this gives us also perspective what problems to solve for. If somebody is sitting on the platform side and configuring a very complicated front end and then training for that. Right. So yeah, I think I remember looking at the platform once. I think in one of the IIFL group I had gone, and I think I saw Perdix platform. I was so amazed with the. I think it was 8 years back when you had done some framework, some processes which I was not able to see how my banking days my platform could handle, right? So I think it was way ahead of time. So I think Arun will be good to get your perspective because you have been on the cutting edge and also have been working with multiple entities across the spectrum. So quick view on digital lending from your side as well, along with the introduction.
Okay, thanks, Samir. Once again, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Arun. I head business development for Dvara Solutions. So let me just introduce myself and then share a couple of my points on the digital lending journey itself, right? So I started my career with Dvara, which was IFMR then in 2009. And for the first 7 to 8 years, I was into understanding market intelligence, trying to gather data from customers, speaking to customers and see how we can design customized financial products and solutions for low-income households and bottom of the pyramid customers in remote rural areas, right? So that's what we did for the first 7-8 years. And along with that, we also felt the need to have focused solutions, technology solutions for this segment, because whatever was existing at that point in time in the market, it was not fine-tuned to meet the requirements of the segment that we were trying to address. And I could relate to what Shiv was just mentioning, right? For instance, if you were to capture the cash flows of the rural customer, you didn't have a system then. Today, there are only a handful of systems, right? Even after all this advancement. So we had to develop a system right from scratch. First of all, to capture the various kind of KYC documents and then to capture various types of income, expenses, occupations, and so on, understand their cash flows, and then use all of that data to then build intelligence and build products. So we had to build that thing from scratch. And while we did that for our group company for about 7-8 years, we said we've now developed a body of work. Why don't we now try and see if we can work with multiple other partners in addition to our group company and see if we can add value to their operations also, right? So there are things like how can you cut down the turnaround times of lending or an insurance product or something from, let's say, a 25 days to about 2 to 3 days now, right? Of course, fintechs do it in 25 to 30 minutes. That is in urban areas, but in rural areas, even today, if you can do something in 2 to 3 days, that is phenomenal. So how can you do that? The second thing is, how can you move the conversation away from, let's say, a branch bank? You cannot move it away completely, but how can you help financial institutions move it from a fully branch focused thing to a doorstep kind of a service? And you have to build systems which are capable of doing it. And you also not only do these things yourself, you have to collaborate with a lot of players in the ecosystem, right? And that's the topic of the day also. You as a technology provider, how can you offer innovations and solutions to your partners? But how can you also facilitate by collaborating with a lot of other innovative companies in the ecosystem and bring it as a package and offer it to your financial institution? So that's what we've been doing in the last 7-8 years of our presence in the market, Samir. And I'm so glad to hear from you that you've seen our product working, especially the business process layer, because that is one of the things that we take a lot of pride in, right? Because when we ourselves see in the market, right, we see a lot of, take a simple example of a mobile phone that is being offered to you, whether it's an Android or an iPhone. It is not customized for each and every user's requirements. We have to get used to that user interface and so on. Whereas what we are saying is through Perdix, you can create your own workflows and you can deploy it on the field. So then it's changing the ballgame. Like, you don't have to worry about adapting to that technology. Rather, let the technology work for you. So that's where our work is focused on today, with a lot of other different areas as well. Maybe I'll talk about some of these things as we go forward as well, but really looking forward to this conversation over the next 45 minutes or so.
Thank you. And my request to all the audience, if you could share your question back on the chat with us, we will try to sort of respond back or get the questions back from the speakers here, because they would know most of it. Mere se mat puchna. I'll ask these questions back to these gentlemen here, and they will guide us. So with this, we'll start with the first question. I think the key question here is, there's so many products and offerings which are there in the market. One of the days that हमने अपना एक PL बनाया, we create one PL product, and we say यार 5 lakh का PL बेच दो, और उसमें max changes, the rates will slightly change, and that's about it. Right now we are talking about each flavor, each industry, new data points coming up. It's not about bureau score. It's not about just account statement analysis. So journeys are different. You're deeply embedded on the other side. So maybe Mahesh, I want to understand, because you are working with multiple people in the ecosystem as well. And again, I'm looking at your responses from a banking perspective, which is maybe a broader vision you can bring on that. So, and of course you have payment ecosystem as well. So you have a flavor of NTV, NTC, and ETV, all kind of flavors, right? So आप बताओ कि from your perspective, would you go for a multiple sort of platforms, or best of breed platform for each segment, or would you go for a single platform or multiple? And what will be the choices? Why would you make it? Kind of stuff. So as deep as we can get on, maybe next few minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. I think it's a definite, it's a very serious debate that happens quite often. But I think the way I would look at it, I would effectively, from a technical architecture perspective, I would probably hone in on the management, the asset management being in one ecosystem, where all the products are essentially defined, right? That is very important, because it also gives you a lot more flexibility, actually, in terms of leveraging some of the parameters that you do, that in terms of fine tuning what you have to present to the end customer. But so when you look at the whole, the way I look at it is, the core has to be a single system. However, the ability of the way we need to expose the core is by a set of services, microservices as I call it, which essentially mediates between what the front layer and the backend capabilities are. Obviously, through the journey, you would have very specific I would say, processes or journeys that you have to go through. When you do that across each of secured, unsecured kind of a lending, the microservices or architecture essentially will play a very important part in your entire fulfillment journey. I would say the microservices and the core needs to be tied to very closely. Having said that, the channel, the front end is where the experience journeys come in play. And the front end is where I would keep it fairly agnostic to the back end. I would keep the front end where there could be multiple onboarding or service capabilities that could come in. It could be either within the organization, it could be through a BC model, or it could be even through a partner model completely. And each of them would have different flavors of how they would seek, that is, they would pull the information and provide the information back. So to me, to answer your question, I would say that I would keep a very fat core, which essentially provides me a lot of information and cross leveraging of product capabilities, create a very agile services architecture that exposes to the front end, and the front end layer is essentially ambivalent. It sort of is an isolation, which essentially creates its own orchestration to service not just from within. It can also probably aggregate across other services that could be made available in the front end. So I would keep the front end completely different to the core. That's the way I would probably keep it.
Or one more question, maybe I'm linking it, Mahesh, back to you, is that there is always a business coming, mera wala clean, right? Mera wala, ye wala color nahi aaya. So the point is that businesses also run different direction, and rightly so, right? Because they have no flavor. So they may not have patience to get new journeys built for them in line or in roadmap or along with others. And therefore, there's always a fight back saying that technology is not moving ahead. So would you think that to compromise for it, we may still need to call out something specifically for each businesses, so that at least largely they are running independently rather than technology coming on the road as a roadblock?
So, which is what I said, Samir. I would probably look at it the way I interpret the question is, I would let businesses create the partnerships and essentially control some part of the journeys, but majorly allow them to create experiences. There we have to create some boundary conditions of what is good to have, what is must have from a customer data perspective, from a orchestration perspective in the front end. Beyond it, I would really say that we should enable businesses to enhance their distribution capability and reach capability. The control points are within to say how do they consume and how do they store the information from a common or pull information from a common repository. So to me, to summarize, I would say that I would rather lean in on helping businesses grow and expand and create multiple opportunities to access in a controlled environment by which how data is pulled in and how data is stored back. That is something which we have to orchestrate more firmly, and that makes it more nimble for collaboration and for expansion of reach.
Fantastic, fantastic. So maybe my perspective around 10-12 years back, any banker you say that would you want to join NBFC, and it's a kya thanda job hai. Back end the LMS will be there, and then hardly anything to be done, no journeys, and everything is manual. I think from then onwards that suddenly digital lending came and fintechs came, and then suddenly it's the most exciting space to be in. And every banker actually is focusing more energy on asset side rather than liability side, right? As liability was always sort of hogging the limelight, and now suddenly assets are. Now, and NBFC is a great place to be in right now, because Sara innovation wahan pe alag level ka ho raha hai. It's very, very different one. So Ajay, it will be good from your perspective to understand how do you cater to different businesses, and which segment you will look at, saying that will you really go for a single platform for everything or different one, and what choices you'll make, and technically if you can also share some mistakes you have made along the journey.
Sure. To give a quick background on what Shriram Group is into, right? We are an organization who's almost touching 50 years since inception in 2024. Now, as we speak about this kind of an organization, we see a lot of legacy processes also which are coming on play along with this, right? And when I talk about platforms over here, more than platforms, the view which we take right now are program run initiatives, more than platform run initiatives. So we define what kind of product do we need to be developing, what kind of journey do we need to be developing. That becomes the forefront of any initiative which we want to take for a particular business. Now, once when I talk about a product or a program over here, I'm talking again about what kind of modules do I need to be having for each of these products, right? Now, in my lines of businesses, there are two companies which are into the lending space, which is Shriram Transport and Shriram City. Shriram Transport, I have profiles ranging from a driver to a cleaner to a small time, a single truck owner, to a HNI customer who's coming into my platform and investing into a fixed deposit product. And also from a retail space, we've just touched a volume of 1 crore two-wheelers. And apart from that, we've also got an online personal loan piece as well. Now, the system demands multiple modules in itself, right? From a loan origination system standpoint, I need to have a collateral management system to be tied up with each of these. Now, a lot of it is available in-house, a lot of it which is not available as well. So as a strategy, what we've done is we've kept our platform straight from an LMS standpoint, kept it one. And from an LOS standpoint, we've got one platform, but we're open to collaborate with all the companies who are giving us better solutions, right? So the approach is pretty fair and simple as to what our need is, making our need very clear. So people get excited in fintech saying that, there are so many platforms which are available. How do I go about choosing a particular platform as well? One of the ways we've addressed that is to understand what our basic needs are. What is our go-to-market strategy in terms of launching a particular product? What is the approach do we need to take? And be very sharp in terms of what our requirement is. And once our requirement is clear, we see what is that exact module which we need to be plugging in. Can we look at having it in-house? Does our existing solution enable us to do it? If not, let's look at partnering with somebody who does a better job than what we could ever do. And we get into that kind of an approach and look at solving for each of these platforms, right? And then we collaborate. For example, we partnered with few of the fintechs in towards our co-lending platform. These are models which are continuously evolving, right? We've not, across India, we've not hit a maturity curve for any of these products. It's still in a growth phase. We see there's plenty of opportunity where we could also use somebody's system to, figure out, maybe Dvara could have a solution like that, which we could plug and play to each of these particular spaces which you want to. So that's where we look at. So think about it like a base product, which we want to create in-house, and all the additional things which you want to build on top of it, we look at expanding it to other platforms and make data at the center of the plate so that, that defines how our journey for a particular customer should be. So that's the construct we follow at Shriram as a principle.
No, excellent. And of course, along the journey, I never worked. So once I started working for Infosys, I never worked on inclusion initiative, which came in parallel. And during my DCB days, I got a chance to implement a BC platform, and we moved obviously Excel to a pure play digital journeys out there long back. And I realized how different it is, right, and how complicated it can get. So I think Shiva, it will be good to understand from your perspective, how does it work for Samasta? What would be your thought process on single platform, multiple platform? Because that segment is very different, and you can't really have a very high cost base. Otherwise, the profitability will go for a toss when we'll have unviable platform as product as well. You can't even train a lot of people with different platforms as well, right? That's another challenge. So maybe Shiva, from your perspective, it's good to get your view.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we need to understand because of a customer base is since many of them do not have smartphones, we do not have a digital app from a customer's perspective. What we do is our field staff, our frontline staff actually onboards the customer. Okay, so what we focus on is how quickly can we capture customer information and how accurately can we capture customer information, and also how we can automate and do the processing very quickly. Okay, from this perspective, we have done a lot of integrations in the last few years. I mean, we don't have an homegrown solution. We decided that our focus will be on financing our customers than on focusing on technology. So we have lending solution partners like Dvara, who we work with. So all these integrations that we've done in the past have been either to improve sourcing or enhance processing. So in the past, our sourcing has, so on the sourcing front, we've done KYC integration, multi-bureau integration, even bank account validation, etc. I mean, there are so many integrations. I mean, also from the processing perspective, we have integrated with a bank for fund transfer, automating the fund transfer. Okay. See, all these things we did it ourselves because a few years ago, I mean, we didn't have a system which had all these integrations. But now, I think this is a basic minimum. I think if you talk about any platform, even Dvara has all these integrations in place. Okay, so from that perspective, for a financial institution like us, managing fewer vendors is more efficient. I mean, as long as the integrations are efficiently done, and only minor customizations have to be done, we would prefer a platform where all the integrations are available. For example, what happened was for around 5 years ago, our company decided that we won't do any cash disbursements because informal sector, we were doing cash disbursements. We decided that it's enough. We won't do, I mean, they were frauds. So we had to stop that. So we started doing account transfer. At that time, we realized that, validating the bank accounts, account numbers, and manually for doing the fund transfer was very time consuming. It was delaying a disbursement. So we tied up with the bank. We automated the entire the journey from validating the bank account till fund transfer. Okay. The point is, we had an agreement with the bank and our vendor. I mean, the coordination was 3 ways. So, and that inordinately caused delays in implementation and stabilizing the system. So it almost took us a year to stabilize everything. Whereas if the fintech partner interacted directly with the solution provider, I mean, it would have been much faster. Probably we would have had the solution in the 2 months itself. So, I mean, I would say that I mean, it's a very specific solution which is specific to your company. You can go for integration on your own. But if it's something which is generic, I think you should have a platform which addresses all these things. And that's my take on it.
This is interesting. Very different view. So I think all our life we were saying that technology is not important and a support function and all of that to a world where digital and technology is the only differentiator which we can bring to the table. I think the statement is that okay, let's not go into it. It can be a bit difficult from a business perspective, but technology has I mean, for a long time was treated really poorly, right? And suddenly the CTOs are becoming CEOs as well, and fintech world with the pura ulta hai, right? I had a call with 2 guys in the morning, and I was saying together your age is less than my age, but they have already built maybe almost a unicorn right now, and they're both techies, right? And they don't know banking at all, and they say we are coming from e-commerce. We wanted to solve e-commerce problem. We ended up building. I would say the company is cash free, right? They built 2 guys, young guys, building it, phenomenal stuff. So I'm just saying, world technology is changing it. So maybe from Arun, from your perspective, you are building something unique, right? So it will be good for us to understand that when different customers come and expect you for a lot of different products, how do you manage on the same platform? Because configuring it is difficult. Integrating with different sources is difficult. KYC process can be different. MSME is different. Corporate is different. Retail is different. MFI is different. So how do you manage it, and what are challenges you face?
Okay, Samir, so that's a really interesting question, right? And it's topical also, because one of the reasons why I think companies like Shriram and Yes and so many others, they keep going through this phase of build versus buy, right? And the reasons why they have their internal tech teams is they feel that they can do so much internally and then create these experiences like both Ajay and Mahesh are mentioning internally for their customer, rather than get it developed from a partner. Where while there are a lot of other people like whom we work with believe that they can buy it from the market, while both have their own merits and demerits, the place where we come from is So there are a lot of things that Shiv also mentioned, right? There are complexities, challenges they are facing. So as a technology provider, as a solutions provider, our endeavor has been, how can we take in all these complexities and work through multiple partners and give a seamless experience for our clients or financial institutions. So that's what we try to do. So one of the things there has been right from our early days is we've always listened to the customer, understood their requirements, and then sort of built our product based on the customer requirements rather than saying, we built something, now you have to use it that way. We don't do that. Our evolution right from being a single module, which is customer management system, to now 10 modules is by looking at what are the different processes we can automate, how we can automate them, how we can offer a seamless experience to the customer. That is number one. Number two, while we understand there are nuances which are different from one financial institution to the other, but there are a lot of things, especially with technology, that is kind of similar to a lot of institutions, right? So that's where we sort of have taken a product approach where we say, okay, now whatever we have 30 customers today, whatever changes that are coming in across these 30 customers, for a significant period of time, it will be available with those specific customers. But we will also learn from that and try and put that into the product. So let's say if Samasta is going through some challenge today, and we address that for Samasta, in a year or so, it should be available for other customers, because the same journey, it took 1 year for Samasta, the other person can solve it in a couple of days because he has that already, right? So that we are saying we should be able to learn from it, and we should be able to accommodate in our tech system so that our partners get the benefit of this co-opting kind of a thing, right? So that is something that we are going through, and we've got really good feedback from a lot of customers through that product approach. So that's the second thing that I would point about. The third thing, which is sort of very important, is how do you, one of the things that all these three other esteemed speakers pointed out is there are innovations happening on the fly. You also pointed about Cash Free. They are a great company. We are integrated with Cash Free, and we are looking forward to work with them. So like that, there are so many innovations which are happening in the market, right? And how do you leverage these innovations without compromising your core, which is the FAT core or the LMS that both Mahesh and Ajay sort of referred to, and then create a really good, but a really good experience for your customer? How do you do that? It is very difficult. So that's where probably bigger companies, what they do is they try to develop a culture. They try to develop their systems to offer a similar experience to the end customer. But whereas companies like us, what we do is we offer a platform wherein we integrate with these 30, 40 different types of innovations which are happening in the market. Let's say starting from credit bureaus, which are really a hygiene thing, which almost all financial institutions do today, to something like accounting, messaging, and people are using WhatsApp chatbots today to interact with their customers for their transaction things like that. And then there are, like, of course, AI and ML it keeps coming up in every conversation. So how do you address hygiene kind of thing to something really innovative, something game changing? How do you bring all these different players into a single platform? Because like Shiv mentioned, there are a lot of challenges for financial institutions, business challenges, let alone technology challenges, right? So how you as a technology player can take in all these complexities and offer, both in terms of commercials and in terms of managing these relationships, if you can accommodate it through a single platform, then a lot of these financial institutions, especially early stage ones and growth stage ones, will get benefit out of a platform, is what how we look at Samir.
Fantastic. Mahesh, I think I don't envy your job. It's a tough one, right? Building technology and digital for such a large organization. So maybe your insights on what it takes to go digital in such a large organization, and what are the challenges which is faced, and maybe a recommendation to anybody who's now turning into a digital or CIO role, how should they handle it? So your insights on digital challenges and how do you overcome and opportunities of this. So your thoughts on digital generically.
Sure, Samir. I think classically, up until about a couple of years ago, a lot of us have delivered programs-driven football approach, which essentially starts from a BRD to the whole development phase, testing phase, rolling it out, and then I think the way things are evolving and the pace at which things are evolving, there is a need for us, even for all technology teams, for CIOs, CXOs to relook at the whole collaborative delivery model. Now, one may call it agile, one may call it cohorts, but at the end of the day, to me, I think I would simplistically put, we would form a cross-functional business unit, a cross-functional unit that comprises of all key stakeholders who essentially have to create very specific outcomes. And you define the game plan with respect to what is expected to be delivered across various MVPs. Once you do that, I do believe there are 2-3 advantages that come to the table. First advantage is there is a sense of ownership cross-functional. Which means that while there is yin and yang that may happen from what should come in first, what should go in later, but as you start to develop the effort that it takes to bring everything together, the kind of testing and the integration required gets well appreciated. Once that is appreciated, now there is a fair bit of ownership, not just for technology implementation, but also from an acceptance on the field perspective. That is very important, right? At the end of the day, you may create a beautiful, fantastic tool, but if the tool is not accepted in the front end and is as good as no use. So giving this kind of an approach and incrementally publishing, I would say, MVPs, minimum viable propositions across phases, I think makes a huge sense for us in the way forward. And many organizations have started moving in that journey. This will also help you in terms of manage, fail fast. I would call it as fail fast. You launch something, it doesn't work. What do you really pull back and rework upon it? I think those are some things which today's, I would say, software release management, process management allow you to experiment with and go on the journey. And I would recommend that for go forward, we've started accepting it as a de facto for a lot of our digital products. It started to yield successes and do believe that the world will start to break away from its siloed waterfall approach to a much more agile cohort-based approach, and which incrementally will start to deliver more value. In a holistic sense, I think that shift will be well accepted and will also have technology to roll forward and help enable the business move very rapidly. I think that's what we should be aimed at.
And maybe there's a specific question which has come from audience, maybe Mahesh, from your perspective, is that with so many fintechs like a Jupiter and others trying to build customer engagement framework, what should be the ideal strategy for a bank to work with them on experience side, or they can compete where or collaborate? So the question is that how do you handle that two frameworks? One is digitally very engaging and deep, another bank building for it, right? So would you collaborate, compete? Any thoughts on it? Only if you can share.
So I think, I did allude to in the start that there are a lot of fintechs and agile organizations who are in the B2C space, but they are in a very narrow band of space, a narrow band. From a financial institution like a bank, I think they are at the end of the day can offer a far more larger bouquet of services and capabilities. So in my mind, I think the way we have orchestrated ourselves is created a very strong partnership model where a lot of these partners, and in this case, a name that you mentioned can be classified as a neobank, who essentially can be extended to service, to onboard and service with the capabilities that are delivered from the backend. And those are essentially the bank. The customer belongs to the bank, serviced through these channel partners, I would call it as neos, and effectively control the orchestration of their lifestyle. So which means a new organization, like you called out, could orchestrate across multiple different services, lifestyle services. It could be just banking, it could go into certain other services that they will eventually go into. But being able to the financial part, if we are able to control well and manage that customer better, I think we have a great partnership story to go ahead with. That's how I would play. I would. They need us, we need them. So let's put it two-way street, and to be able to create that openness within within certain boundaries is essential for us to make it a success.
No, this is good. This is good. I continuously am getting sort of questions, but I'm not getting enough feedback. I think we do these events regularly. It's good for us to understand if you're specifically looking at a certain kind of events to be done, or also in this session itself, if there's something which you could have, we could improve. So please share your feedback. Just to give maybe a bad incentive. Top 3 guys will get maybe half an hour consulting free from my side. Let me put random stuff out there if it excites you. So, but we can have a one-on-one chat if some of you can give your feedback. I don't think Dvara is going to give you a free usage of their platform for say 1 year. That's not happening. But from my side, half an hour free consulting for if you're looking at, or one-on-one chat, whatever you want. Please
We'll be happy to give free demos, Samir.
That's quite a silly stuff, right? So yeah, I think let's move to a different area. I think Ajay, it will be good for us to understand that before we understand technology, there is a blockchain comes, and then you understand blockchain, then somebody throws AI, and then you move to a Web 3.0, and then Meta, and the world is something else right now. So from a technology perspective, it will be good to understand what kind of technology is really usable. And maybe you can talk about specific use case where it is solved for it, right? Because generic to bahut kuch ho sakta hai, right? And I know enough influencers who talk crap, right? I really want to know कि क्या हो सकता है और क्या नहीं हो सकता, right? Fridge खोल के अपने आप थोड़ी order करेगा खाने को, नहीं चाहिए मुझे और ice cream, right? I don't need it, but it'll order on its own, right? It's a AI there, नहीं सोचना मुझे. So I want to know practically what is feasible on technology side, what technology is really usable, and what you think is still evolving. So your thoughts on technology.
So I'll keep this conversation very simple, right? Because you used a lot of buzzwords to start with. I think the audience who's listening would be quite confused as to where did Web 3.0 come in from, right? So I'll keep it very simple as to what Shriram's strategy is in terms of driving this entire technology change forward. You must have also read and understood also that Shriram is now in the process of building our own first super app, right? Now, super app in itself is something where we thought we have a franchisee of 2 crore customers. Now, how do we get all of these people into a single platform? We thought app could be the best solution. How do we keep an engaging platform in play? Now, when I get all these customers into a super app, what we've also seen is that we need to understand our data better. We need to understand our customers better. There's no point in just saying that, I have 2 crore customers. I need to be classifying these customers into different personas, identifying what kind of segment these customers sit into, and build and create more and more opportunities so that whatever be the technology that you're coming up with in the future, we have a ready-made solution or understanding what kind of use cases we would be able to build. It could be to start with, understanding triggers. Now, I come from a background where the traditional process was for a credit manager to write down a complete PD sheet and then, upload it onto a system. Now we are talking about doing an OCR, trying to understand, break that entire English into characters and, codify it into rules so that we understand that in a much better way. Come out with recommendations in the future for what kind of profile a customer is. That's where the entire MLPs comes into play, right? Now, from a technology standpoint, organizations are also keen in collaborating with each of these partners who are there providing solutions in the market, so that we could also find out newer ways in discovering and understanding our customers better and serve with a goal of increasing our net promoter score. That is one of our goals. The second is also understanding what other products can be cross-sold to them as part of this entire ecosystem. So that's the goal which we carry. And earlier it used to be platform-led approaches, but now it's become tech as a product in itself, right? More than financial services product. That's the change which we've seen over the last few years, especially during COVID. We saw the need to get into more digital products, make it quickly accessible to our customers, capture very little information for our existing customers, and how do we scale from there? And that's the approach we've taken as an organization. And we've also reached out to most of the partners who are there, who could support in this journey. So we've created a forum itself inside our organization to partner with people so that we scale on the fintech piece and identify people who could add a lot of value to us and then build that journey together. So that's one of the approaches as a company we've taken so that we could scale further. The super app is the larger initiative where we are bringing everybody into a platform, keeping it engaged. More importantly, from our sales team also, we are also digitizing the entire offline process which is there from a B2B perspective, right? And get all the data captured. So data falls into the center of all, and technology comes as more and more layered to it so that we understand each of it better and serve our customer needs better. That's a simplistic answer to it.
And maybe just 30 seconds on a question which has come, which is, wo to theek hai, jab data privacy aa jayega, so we are using data in one way or other. Any quick 2 seconds or 30 seconds on just data privacy, how will it impact consumer lending or maybe lending?
Right. So we're not talking about, taking data randomly, right? We're talking about enriching data by taking customers' consent here. That becomes one of the primary ways how we would want to understand our customers better. There is no other way than organically taking data. And we also take consent in terms of any partner APIs which you would want to also look at leveraging. It could be as basic as a bureau as well, right? Without a consent-based mechanism, it is not going to work. Similarly, on an app also, we are talking about permissions which is coming up and taking permissions for every single use case. Gone are those days where you used to take a single permission for all the kind of use cases which you would want to do. You're talking about location access coming in, you're taking separate permissions, you're taking SMS permissions separately, you're taking camera permissions separately. So each of it is consent-based. And that's what enriches the kind of information that I carry on my system so that we'll be able to make meaningful derivatives of whatever we want to serve for our customer.
Excellent. So maybe I think while we will want to get your views on how MFIs can digitize, I think many MFIs are still working on Excel, and I've seen it very close as well in many, or maybe Excel is not the right word, but not the perfect answers, right? Not as good as they could do. And some of them are very large as well, right? So what would be your advice to that? And maybe, okay, the link question I'll ask separately. And that's basically advisory to other MFIs which are still struggling. How can they go digital?
Okay, first of all, many of the MFIs are digitally savvy. I mean, they are quite good in what they're doing technologically. But from our point of view, what I would say is, when you're talking about customers in financial inclusion space, there might be there might be tens of microfinance institutions across India, but their first port of call in any emergency is the local money lender. Okay, that's where they go. So which means that our focus is on providing superior customer experience, which means that we need to lend. I mean, we need to disperse in a quick turnaround time. Okay, that is the main focus of our lending, digital experience. Okay, so which means since our customers are from low income segment, they are not financially literate. Okay, which means that it's our responsibility that they understand what is the interest rate that we are charging, how we are calculating the EMI. So for these reasons, we have also have a digital app. Very simple digital app which we provide to the customers. Okay, but above all that, what is very critical is keep things simple. From our point of view, because I said attrition also is quite high, what we have focused on is keeping our mobile app, which our frontline staff use. Keep it very simple, standardize data capture across loan products. Okay, so that any other heavy lifting can be done by the backend systems. Okay, so when that is either your business rules engine or your LMS or even your strong analytics platform, like Ajay was mentioning, a strong analytics platform can drive your credit decisions, and that can make it faster. Beyond all this, I'm sure there are lots of things that you want to do. How we've approached is prioritize what is critical. Okay, so for example, when we did the e-sign, we wanted to do everything together, but then once we released it, we realized that customers keep changing their phone numbers, which means that you can't do a OTP based e-sign. Okay, so that's when we realized, you need to procure biometric devices and send to the branches. Then, so go look at priority things that needs to be done, and don't do everything in a hurry. I mean, have a clear plan of action of what you will achieve first, what can be done later. Okay, but having said that, there's so much to do and very little time. So I'm sure as long as the customers are happy and they are able to get the loans quickly, I think your digital journey is on a good path. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. I think and questions are brilliant questions that are coming up. I think people want us to extend. Maybe we'll go for 5 minutes more if it's possible, because I just want to take 1 or 2 questions from here. And as a request, everybody please fill the form. It'll get us a feedback on how we are doing. And maybe, as I said, many of you may not be interested in meeting me, but then Dvara can actually give you a one-on-one demo as well if you require. Maybe I think a loaded question from my perspective is that when the lenders work with you, what kind of benefits or use cases where you think that you can add tremendous amount of value which your customers have seen? And also any advisory on if somebody goes through this journey, what challenges they will face in delivering this, right? Because many times सोचते हैं कि vendor आ गया तो सब कुछ हो जाएगा. Vendor आने से होता कुछ नहीं. Partner आने से कुछ नहीं होता. People have to do it on their own. So decision making थोड़ी कर लेंगे. Nobody will, steering committee will not be constituted of the partners, right? It has to be internal. So maybe it will be good for us to understand from your perspective on value you create and areas of serious impact.
So, Samir, if I may replay the question that you articulated, I think the way what I hear you is when you bring an out-of-the-box product or you bring services from a third-party vendor or an OEM, what is the value proposition you bring to the table, right? We as technology team, am I right? I think the biggest thing that when we choose any vendor, or I would take a step back, when we choose any OEM vendor or service or a partner to help us in the journey, I think we have to be fairly understanding about what credentials they bring to the table, because that's very important. And credentials does not mean just getting a product. Credentials also means what is the kind of interlock we're going to create in terms of the partner or the OEM bringing the right kind of skill sets or domain expertise to that journey, to the building that project or delivering the project. That's very critical, because the reason I'm saying that is critical is when you go and shortlist any product or with any services layer, you're essentially, what are you trying to do? You're trying to translate between three areas: on business expectations, the partner's capability, as well as how you're going to create a customer experience journey. So when you triangulate all of these, it is the technology function that really starts to create the balance story. The balance story is essentially created there. So I would say that in the way I would really look at it is, any product that you buy, before you buy, the engagement has to be fairly, I would always call it as a discovery exercise. We probably don't do that well here. We do a kind of an RFP or some kind of an interaction, but I would call it as a discovery exercise, which should be paid, I would say, in some sense.
I'm coming to you for paid POC then.
Good. So I'll make sure that you deliver value for me, but that's for sure. So the point that really happens is, then what happens is interlock on a scope, which essentially gets binding between the two organizations, and also more importantly, bring what expertise that is there. So everyone wants their journey. Every bank says, I don't want to be a me too, but there is 80% that is actually the same. It's a 20% differentiator that one is either driving it by other experience or pricing. So there are two things: pricing, risk, and in terms of experience. 3 areas on the lending side. to be able to now balance this and then create those niches and nudges is what possibly we'll have to bring well to the orchestration engine. Otherwise, my recommendation would be that any partner that you go with, make sure they bring the right competency, make sure they are signing up to the scope of work, and make sure that they are bringing expertise that they've already developed or they have, not recreate for you. Because if you're recreating, it might think then you are going to go on a long journey, by which time the market will keep changing. So that's the way I would put it.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. And maybe the same question to you on the counter side, Arun. How do you what are use cases, Arun, you believe the maximum value can be created as a platform for a bank or institution, where, and what, based on your experience, what you created as a partner of choice, right? So maybe that will be good for us to understand, Arun.
Sure, Samir. Some part of it may be a slight repetition, but I'll still do this. So what are the business process involved in financial institutions, especially lending, right? You have customer onboarding, then you have credit underwriting and all the business rules scoring that comes with it. Then you have servicing, which involves booking, disbursements, repayments, and collections, right? And reporting. So these are the 4 or 5 things that you look at. Now, what happens is what we see in financial institutions today is there are many partners who are offering innovative solutions in each of these spaces, right? For instance, you have KYC validation service providers who are providing KYC validations on different kinds of KYCs. There are companies which provide specific credit underwriting capabilities, wherein you can understand different types of customers. For instance, if you are a retailer in Tanjavur, or let's say if you're running a set of vehicles in Bombay, your credit is completely different based on the needs. So these credit underwriting companies give you situation-based, very specific credit scores on you and specifics on that. And there are companies which provide you e-sign, e-documentation kind of facilities. And there are other companies which provide, let's say, collection capabilities. Now, you as a financial institution, you need all these capabilities inside your organization, right? There are 2 ways of doing it. You build all of this through a single vendor who will provide you all this, or you can work with multiple vendors, or the third thing is you work with someone who can provide you all these things and so much more into a single platform. So that's the thing. That's the question, right? And there is no right or wrong way of doing it. The kind of challenges people face in working with multiple vendors is, one, you have to managing multiple vendors on their own is, one, you have to keep looking at what are the innovations, what are the options available, right? And then you have to keep looking at commercials, and you have to go through the challenges of integrating with each of them, testing them, and then getting support and all that. So that's where it will help if you have a phase which is sort of working out all this and takes away all the complexity and then offers you a single seamless experience. And that kind of use case, so we've also gone through these 3 things, right? We have, out of our 30 clients today, there are customers who use us for only one service. There are customers who use us and they integrate themselves with other players. And there are customers who use the whole platform approach. And we've seen, if you take our CSAT numbers, satisfaction levels are really high with people who use us as a full platform, who brings in our own modules, automates all the various processes, and then also brings, takes a lot of innovations which are happening in the market on the areas that I just mentioned as a single package, so that they just have to lean upon us for all the innovation, things like that, knowing fully well that we will continue to look out for innovations and we will offer them.
Super. I think best of part of my life is that I get to learn from people like you. I think this panel has been fabulous. The only difference is that I just realized that the suit I was wearing, and this photograph was 8 years old or 6 year old, I'm still wearing the same. So I'm not getting richer, at least on the money side, but at least for sure knowledge side, I'm getting a lot of knowledge. I think, Mahesh, your perspective on the banking view and how you can build a single framework, or maybe Ajay, your views and your views across multiple entities where you worked and built new values. or MFI business, which is completely different. Of course, there are many more questions which Shiva came to for you, because people are looking at how you can reach out to that segment where people don't even have mobile. How do you connect and service? So I know that some questions still there. I'll share back with you. And I think I could see that camaraderie between you and Shiva, that you guys have worked together. There will still be some fights here and there, but as a collaboration framework, I think looks really good. Fight to hogi, itna bhi nahi hoga to kaam kaise hoga, right? So I totally get that. I'm not privy to it, but I guess it will just be happening. But this is a great forum. I think I learned a lot. I'm so sure that the participant would be learning as well. So thank you for joining us, guys. Thank you, and thank you all the participants, everybody who joined us together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sameer. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ajay, Mahesh, Shiva, Sameer. Thanks
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice.
Bye.